My name's Judy Broekhoven. Welcome to Spa for the international round of the Elise Trophy. There will be a full grid this weekend, consisting of both the UK and European drivers. There will be 2 races. The first one is going to be a 30-minute race. Let's go find out how they did at qualifying. Paul Petterson. How did you do, Paul?
Not bad. I was pleased with the times, but I did have an accident in qualifying, avoiding a car that had stopped on the track with a mechanical problem, so I hit the barrier. But it's all fixed now and good for tomorrow.
How did you do today?
Pole. Can't be better than that.
Is it because there's not that much competition today?
My car's faster than it.
What do you think of that?
I would say that due to traffic on the last lap, he got a very fortunate pole.
So there's good stuff to come tomorrow then.
There's lots to come tomorrow. I hope just that we put on a good race for the spectators. We're both 2 wise old foxes, and to finish first yet to finish. Is that right, Andrew?
That's right. So I'm going to try to make sure he doesn't hit me.
Andrew, how does it feel to drive a car that won't go bang?
Well, it hasn't gone bang yet. We've done qualifying. Let's see how it goes in the races. But fingers crossed, it'll be all right.
Are you happy how it went in the race or in the qualification?
Yeah, not too bad. The car's a lot quicker than I am at the moment, but I'm just starting to learn it. So we'll see how we go tomorrow.
The yellow car is yours.
Fine, yeah.
You seem to have done quite well today.
Well, it's not so bad, but I was very tired, so tomorrow will be better. We'll have more sleep this night.
You only came over late last night.
This morning we started at 5 o'clock in Ostend, but we have only 2-3 hours sleep to prepare these cars, so it was not that bad.
Okay.
I had qualified 17th, and I hadn't driven the circuit for about 18 months, and only once in this car before it was race prepped, and I was a bit nervous and took it quite casually in qualifying. I was okay with 17th.
Didn't go quite as well as we'd hoped this morning, but we had some problems in the week, had to change the gearbox, so the car was slightly different to what it was in initial testing. But overall, it'll be quite good tomorrow, I think.
The magnificent Spa-Francorchamps circuit here in the Ardennes Mountains really is a tremendous setting for these drivers. The green flag is being waved at the back of the grid. All 46 cars are ready to go, and it is going to be a scintillating race for these guys. A good start from the front row man. Martin Donnelly just tucks in behind our race leader there. Andrew Walsh looks like he's got away well. Ben Pitch we're riding on board with, looking to his right. You can see Steve Williams as they brake hard for the famous La Source hairpin. Sweeping through and down towards probably the most. Oh, Ben Pitch wasn't sweeping through at all. There was contact there. Somebody got tapped around. It looked like one of the 340Rs. Couldn't quite see who that was. I think it may have been Chris Headlam. No, it was David Harvey there. That is the 340R of David Harvey. What a great disappointment for him. Looks like he's into the pits already now. This has got to be the most famous corner in motorsport, hasn't it? Eau Rouge, the driver sweep through the left and the right, up the hill, over the brow, and it is looking like it's Andrew Walsh who's just about got the break from the rest of the pack. And it is absolutely a tremendous sight, isn't it, as they charge through the pack there. Ben Pitch now in 9th place after that little bit of contact. It seems to have got a good run there. Seems to be getting a nice run there. That's Christophe Lissandra, one of the local drivers. A nice mixture of our regular drivers that are racing in the Lotus On Track series in the UK, mixed in with a few of the local guys and guys that race in the European series. Sean Becknell, good to see him out here in Spa. 2nd place for him, looking very neat and tidy through some very technical section. 7.3 kilometres long this circuit, so an awful lot of learning to be done for the drivers. Many of them will have not been to Spa before, and those that know the circuit well will really have an advantage. The man that obviously springs to mind, of course, who's been around here in the ultimate racing machine is Martin Donnelly, as a Formula One driver, of course, experienced the magnificent Spa, and a ride now with Donnelly in his 211, the full-speed racing run car. Mark Speller and his guys enjoying the trip out here to Belgium. And remarkably good weather for Spa. Usually you see a mixture of rain and sunshine and pretty much everything that can be thrown at you. it's a bit like Knockhill in Scotland. If you don't like the weather, you just hang around for a few minutes and it usually changes. But at the moment it seems to be looking pretty decent for the drivers, and that's one less thing for them to worry about. Ben Pitch still in the middle of the pack, works his way up a little bit further from the 9th position we saw him in last time when he'd lost a little bit of time. Looking at the 211 there, I think that's the back of Mark Gooday's car that we're looking at there as they sweep through this final part before they go through the infinitely quick section, as they're going to come down in a few corners time to the tremendously daunting Blanchimont corner, the left-hander, which most of these guys will be taken flat out or certainly very close to it before they have to get the cars slowed down and stopped for the famous bus stop. It does look like Pitch has got a little bit of momentum, being very brave. A lot of the drivers in this series really are renowned for their commitment. A little tap of the brakes there from 211 ahead, and who can blame him? Certainly on the first lap when tyres and possibly brains are still a little bit cold at this stage. So we watch with interest as they get onto the brakes. Looks like Pitch now just out and through on Gooday. Yes, he does get a nice clean overtake done, and then yes, gets the car stopped into a very, very challenging section near the bus stop chicane. As it's known, it's gone through about 3 or 4 different configurations in recent years, and certainly at the moment it's one of the more difficult ones. It certainly caught out a certain Mr. Lewis Hamilton this year, and that certainly had a major implication on his World Championship. But anyway, back to the action with Lotus, and we see Doug Setters' car coming into view, being followed by the white car of Martin Johnson. The pack then unfolds, and you can see that this wonderful mixture of the modified cars and the standard cars creating an interesting challenge. Some of the drivers who are perhaps a little bit more used to the circuit, or maybe have had a little bit more experience, seem to be getting to grips with it, although the 46 car, they're having a big spin. That's not quite part of the plan there, and John Townsend will have a nice little war story to tell when he gets back to the UK after what looked to me like a very ambitious overtaking manoeuvre. Now we ride on board with Michael Edwards in a 33 car. He has been very quick at times, had a tremendous battle at Snetterton earlier this season. 2 very, very different circuits. The only thing I suppose in common is length of straights. Look how long that straight is. They come down into, they come sweeping right, then left, then they have a very technical section before they go right once again, then down to the Bruxelles corner. Here the guys have got to get on the pound nice and smoothly, not run too wide. Edwards looks like he's got a bit of momentum, and definitely looks like he was catching a little bit through there. Steve Williams, meanwhile, in 4th place, cautiously turning into left-hander, picking the truck up. Almost sounds like a problem, I think, for Steve. Certainly did sound like there was something not working well. Not normally like Steve to be that careful through there. That, I think, is Steve Williams on our right. It is, just pulling off the circuit. Certainly a great shame, having come a fair old way. Well, another chance to race again later this weekend. Ben Pitch, though, is on a mission after that dramatic incident at the start of the race. He seems to have been gently getting quicker and quicker. Long race, 30 minutes for these drivers around here, and could see 10 or 11 laps in total, depending on if they have any safety cars or anything like that, would affect potentially how the race could unfold. Ben Pitch now just neatly driving the car through the section at the top of the hill. Edwards now looking out the window and starting to close down, and getting a very, very good run as he comes through the left-hander there. This time, though, he's just working out where perhaps he has a little bit more pace. Certainly going to be a very, very difficult place to overtake through that section, but here, maybe if Edwards can get a good run, he might be able to be in a position to come through those 2 left-handers in a moment and then get a run into the bus stop chicane. Meanwhile, the 96 of Rob Bevis comes through and actually just capitalises on maybe where Edwards was just working out where he could find some pace, gets the job done through there. As the rest of the pack behind that seem to be one great big scrap for about 10th place at the moment. 43 there, Johnson coming through his shot, and he certainly has had some great runs so far this season. But all of these drivers, well, we heard from them earlier on, just loving the fact they've got the opportunity to race at what has got to be the most spectacular race circuit in Europe that you can run. Here, I think, the Nürburgring are 2 circuits that everybody would love to race on, and certainly from my own experience racing a Lotus here a few years ago in the pouring rain in the Lotus Sport Elise series was probably one of the most exciting experiences I ever had as a race driver. So it was I can understand and totally relate to the thrill that these guys are going through. This sight here out of your windscreen coming down the hill into Eau Rouge. And you manage to do it flat. You have to have a lift. Back on the power here. The car compresses down on the suspension. A little bit of a wiggle through. Edwards using a bit of the extra road there. And a real benefit there to the drivers is that now with most of the F1 circuits, you of course have tarmac as a bit of a runoff rather than just gravel is what you normally would see on the exit there. Chris Headlam in the yellow car, just getting the job done there. The Kent-based driver. We've seen racing in all sorts of different things. 340R as well is something in his armoury as well. Pitch and Headlam, two fairly experienced drivers, both very quick. Ben Pitch, well, they always talk about Cadwell Park in the UK being a bit like the mini Nürburgring, and that's a circuit that Ben was really quick at. So perhaps the classic circuits, even though Cadwell perhaps would have been an obvious one to compare, but certainly has a lot of similarities in the level of commitment that you need as a racing driver to be able to be fast there. And perhaps that's why he likes this uphill and down-dale view that you're seeing here at Spa. Meanwhile, Martin Donnelly now starting to close down on Sean Bicknell. And a big problem there for Bicknell, a big puff of black smoke coming from the back of the car. Let's listen. That's not a healthy Lotus, is it at all? It sounds like that something's gone wrong there with Bicknell's car. Clearly going to put him out of the race, or certainly slow him down an awful lot. And you can see the amount of time he's lost just at that stage from Donnelly. Donnelly must be thinking that was nice and easy. Didn't have to worry about that too much. And he's away and gone and up the road. Meanwhile, this man, well, look at the lead that he's got. We know that the class of Andrew Walsh as a driver, but also the class of Andrew Walsh as an engineer, getting him and the team getting this car working superbly well. Just about everywhere he's raced this season, he's always been on the pace. We've seen some tremendous battles between Walsh and especially Chris Randall. He's another guy that we normally would see out here, and they're the two guys that seem to have been regularly fighting for overall victory. Of course, it's a class categories here, or class system if you like, we have with the Lotus On-Track Series, different classes for different cars. Normally there's a dedicated class for the 211s that we just saw going through our shot there as Headlam once again negotiates Eau Rouge. And the 211s are the cars that probably grab people's attention the most in terms of the very, very distinctive look. The Elise has become such an iconic little sports car in the years that it's been around in the industry, and certainly it's a testament to the guys that have organised such a fantastic series to give drivers. A lot of them have just been focusing on doing some track days. Great way to experience your sports car or your road car in safety and learn from professional drivers the way to get the best out of the car. And then all these guys, or certainly most of these guys, have progressed from that kind of experience into racing regularly, and that's why we see such a great mixture of really experienced drivers like Martin Donnelly and some guys that are new to the sport. Brilliant way to get them involved and to get them on board. Christopher Sandra there in the black car, the black 211, putting a little bit more pressure. Certainly it's possible that he may well be able to keep Mark Goudet very, very honest throughout the latter part of the race, maybe not in the circuit a little bit better, who knows. Meanwhile, Ben Pitch has certainly not given up on his chase of Chris Headlam. At one point there it did look like they were going to potentially clatter into each other. They seem to be so close, but they seem to drive sensibly enough and fairly enough to give themselves a little bit of a gap and work independently of each other and perhaps work their way towards the cars in front. Meanwhile, the sun seems to be getting brighter, temperatures perhaps increasing a little bit here at Spa. As Tom Chataway, now here's a man who really enjoys his racing. He seems to be having yet another really good scrap with one of his regular drivers from the On-Track Series in the UK, regular competitors as it were. Meanwhile, the action continues through the pack, and that scrap between Chataway and a 47 car of Paul Patterson side by side through Eau Rouge. That's definitely going to be a story that's told, isn't it, a bit later on when the guys get to the bar later on. Well, there we were side by side scrapping. We managed to get through there, and the race continued, the battle continued all the way around the rest of the lap. That's the sort of stories that these boys will be able to take away from their adventure out here in Belgium, and certainly that battle rather, is going to run and run for the remainder of this race for sure. And as I said, at least the weather is working to make these drivers just have one little thing less to worry about, because Spa invariably does create some pretty torrential weather because of where it sits in the Ardennes Mountains. If you look around, it's beautiful scenery around here, just these wonderful pine trees for as far as the eye can see. In fact, you don't have to travel that far and you're going to end up in Germany, and a lot of the German motorsport fans used to come over especially to cheer on their hero Michael Schumacher, who still actually has the outright lap record for this circuit going back to 2002, with a slightly different configuration for the bus stop chicane. But surely that man who's left an indelible mark on motorsport, at the greatest circuit for many drivers we've raced on for many years. Meanwhile, the pack still spreads out, just keeps coming and coming. We've got a 7.3 kilometre circuit to play with. It's nice that pretty much all of it's being filled by Lotus on-track competitors. There's something going on everywhere. And that battle with Chataway and Patterson continues now. Chataway's got the advantage as they break for the bus stop chicane. A little bit further back in the pack, the rest of the drivers now looking for a battle somewhere, and there's always something to be found. And I think that scrap there in the middle is going to run and run and run. They seem to be changing virtually every lap. And the drivers at the front of the pack are able to break away. Unlike a lot of forms of motorsport, we've got a lot of aerodynamic appendages on the cars that can affect the balance of the car that's following if it gets too close. But with these cars, they are still essentially road cars with some minor modifications to suit the racing conditions. Some of it is just simply safety related, some of it is performance related. As we said, different classes for the series, and some of them, the A-class cars, are really pretty much bog standard cars as you could buy and drive on the road, and a lot of the drivers do exactly that. Marcus Jewell is a man that's been competitive throughout this series. We saw him in the blue and orange car coming through our shot there. But once again, Chataway, Patterson this time. It looks like Patterson maybe just gets the cut back and is going to get himself to the outside, but that's going to put himself in a position for Eau Rouge, which is going to take an awful lot of bravery to outbrave Tom Chataway. I think Tom's certainly nothing if not committed, and that worked well for him, but it does look like Patterson seemed to get more momentum coming out of the corner. Meanwhile, Gary Broad, I haven't seen much from him at this stage in the race. Seems to be driving the car nice and nearly under a little bit of pressure, but no major mistakes. As long as he continues driving like that, certainly going to get himself a decent result. He's running around in the middle of the pack at the moment. And a lot of the local drivers have been really pleased to see the level of competition that's been brought over with Lotus on track. That's one thing for certain. We can see a scrap unfolding just about anywhere in the pack, and with the addition of these other guys coming and joining us, it does make a big difference. Martin Roberts it is who's just behind and trying to stay in contention with Gary Broad. This interesting mixture of colour schemes as the drivers come through the shop there. And this is the challenge you have on a circuit like Spa-Francorchamps, 7.3 k's long, as we said earlier, and it means that there's going to be certain bits of the circuit that you're going to know reasonably well. Other bits you're still a little bit unsure of. How much commitment can you give? Where can you brake? Where do you turn in? All that kind of stuff. Going to be a very, very difficult challenge for a lot of these drivers. PJ Chong, one of the drivers in the middle of that pack there, and a lot of the guys there are the regular drivers, a couple of different liveries and different colour schemes, telling us that some of our colleagues from overseas have joined in fun here at Spa. We can blame them. What a great place to have the opportunity to race. And in fact, one of those drivers being the 114 car, that's Eric Chapard in the orange car. Seems to be giving some of our regular British contenders a bit of a tough time in there. Broad, though, seems to have just broken away a little bit further from Martin Roberts, who in turn has been caught up a little bit as they come through Eau Rouge now. Who's going to get the better run as they come up the hill? Well, going to be braking for Les Combes very soon, and that's going to start to see change there as we come through into Les Combes. The 428 of Christian Giassi just getting ahead there. A lot of these guys will probably know each other from the races that they've competed in Belgium and Holland and the Benelux regions. Motorsport in this part of the world is so competitive. You've got to look at the Belcar Series and the Dutch Supercar Challenge. their championships, which have always got big groups of very enthusiastic drivers, even some of whom are regulars in racing in this kind of stuff. Now you can see the massive runoff you've got there now as they come through down through the section at Pouhon there. Remember a few years ago, Kimi Raikkonen, when he was in McLaren, fully sideways through that section on the outlap. Again, looked like Yassi just making a move. I think he's just got ahead of Martin Roberts there, which is a nice, neat move there as they braked into the first part of the Piff Paff section, which leads through to Stavelot and then down through Blanchimont back to where they are now. And it does look like Yassi now has made his way ahead. Also, Gary Broad is on a mission as this guy, and perhaps could be a testament to the level of knowledge that he's got here for this circuit here at Spa-Francorchamps. Behind them again now Robertson, Broad a little bit sideways on the brakes. Marcus Jewell in a similar situation there, and Willem van der Kooi also joining in the fun there, another of the local guys. In fact, the Van der Kooi organisation running about 4 cars for this particular event here, is trying to rival Mark Speller's full-speed racing operation. He seems to have the majority of the cars in a lot of the categories out there, and I think there's going to be more and more top-line teams are going to get involved in running cars in the Lotus On Track series as we go into 2009, because the popularity has just got stronger and stronger. Marc Goudet, meanwhile, still under a little bit of pressure from Christophe Lissandre. That battle has just raged throughout, and it looks like Lissandre maybe just got down the inside. Has he got it done? Yes, he has. Gets it done just before the Bruxelles chicane into this very tricky left-hander, one of the most difficult corners on the circuit at Spa. Easy to lose a lot of time, and then you can be affected as you come down to Pouhon. Goudet just trying to get back down the inside, this double left-hander. I think he has, in fact. Or has he braved it out? Maybe not quite into the second part, because that would have been a potential disaster if those two have made contact there. And it looks to me like that could be Doug Setters that's caught up and joined in the fun there, where these two boys have been scrapping hard. Yes, it is Doug Setters. They were scrapping so hard, I don't think they even realised he was coming. I think Goudet's going to have to worry about that. In fact, it looks like he may have got past. He has. A great job there. So out the back there, out of our sight, Setters gets himself a position. Too far, Marc Goudet just pushed down one more. But for sure, he's not going to give up. He's going to be coming back, and he may have even got to run out of the bus stop to get himself back ahead of Setters. They're certainly side by side. They'll be braking for La Source. Christophe Lissandre rather doesn't seem to be too bothered about it. Setters on the inside line. He's going to position the car. He's going to try and get drive so that he can maybe, just maybe, get to the inside for Eau Rouge. So these guys could have a similar story to tell some of the others that we're talking about being side by side through Eau Rouge. And I'm sure that at the end of the year, when we ask the drivers what their highlight has been of the season, I'm sure that for a lot of them will say racing at this place is going to be one of the real core things that will have really stuck in their mind. Certainly, when you think this is the circuit where Ayrton Senna won for Lotus going back to 1985, the magnificent black and gold colours that we saw Lotus racing in for many years. And that was the year that the race was postponed because they had to resurface the circuit after the middle of the season, and they came to qualify with a fantastic turbocharged cars, the Lotus Renault as it was then, that Senna and his teammate Johnny Dumfries were running that year. Elio De Angelis in 85, and those Lotus days were tremendous in Formula One, and this is really going to be rekindling people's passion for the brand once again. Certainly these guys, they don't need to be reminded what a great manufacturer Lotus are, because they're out there racing hard. Now this guy is just driven away from the competition. Was that a bit of a self-indulgent slide from Andrew Walsh at the front? It did look like he certainly got the back of the car out a little bit as it came through the La Source hairpin there. Certainly didn't look like it was as neat as you'd normally expect. Meanwhile, Martin Donnelly, haven't seen much of him for a while. He's working his way through the pack. And that full-speed racing car has been working very, very well for him. Certainly he hasn't been under any major pressure. The traffic now as they come down to Eau Rouge. Watch the racing line here. Donnelly just moves in a little bit later, then swings back across. He's trying to get momentum to get drive, and I think he's probably done that as he goes past Phil Chatterton in the white 68 car. Phil, of course, running in a different class to Martin Donnelly, so that perhaps explains a slight difference in speed. the Audi turbo engine car. In fact, they're running in a slightly different type of car as in terms of the bodywork, but running a similar level of performance in terms of output. So not an awful lot to choose between these guys. And certainly Donnelly's going to have to work hard to just make himself a little bit further of a gap that he would like to have for comfort's sake. It's where he comes past Tom Chatterton. Going to be coming past the car of Paul Patterson as well, which is also smoking a little bit. So maybe Martin giving himself a little bit of room to make sure that if it was losing oil or something, he wasn't going to get affected by that in terms of getting on the car or getting under the tyres or anything like that. Dupont there, this double left-hander once again. Car's working hard. You can see the amount of load that's going through the suspension there. And certainly it's not going to be... Oh, there's now what have we got here? Is that Patterson? I think it is. Retiring. Great shame for him. Looks like that smoke that we were seeing a little bit earlier on has obviously come to cause him to retire. So back in the pack, the drivers working their way through. We saw there the very, very quick car of Christian Giesi just coming out of our shot there. The rest of the cars now braking into La Source. So easy to outbrake yourself. Our race leader there, sweeping past Martin Roberts and Julian van der Kooi, some of the drivers that we've been watching earlier on in the event here, having a fantastic battle. But it doesn't look like anyone's going to get anywhere near Walsh already. He's worked himself into such a big gap, and he's worked over 20 seconds away from the second place man, Martin Donnelly. Chris Headland, meanwhile, is looking strong for a possible podium position, as is Ben Pitch. It could be either of those guys that could get themselves up onto the podium. Both of those guys have been running very, very strongly at different circuits throughout the year. Headland having a couple of mechanical problems earlier in the season. And Ben Pitch, when he's been around, has been always very, very quick. Doug Setters, another man who's certainly driving very well here at Spa, seems to like this environment, as we see our race leader just once again putting a lap, this time on Hans Baumhart in the 14 car. But after half an hour of hard racing, it is going to be Andrew Walsh who's taken the victory here at Spa-Francorchamps. He has been absolutely dominant, never put a foot wrong, just made it look very, very easy. And the CarLimits.com driver has just driven away, and certainly of all of the success that he's had this season in the Lotus On Track Series, this one is going to mean an awful lot. Meanwhile, Martin Donnelly is coming round to look to take second place. Certainly he's driven again another strong race here in the FSR entered 211, and he's coming through to take a podium position here at Spa. Well, been on the podium before here in Formula 3 amongst other things, so he knows the feeling, but that was a few years ago, and it's going to mean a lot for the Northern Irishman to bring that car home in a podium position. There is the checker flag, and what's the gap going to be? Well, over 30 seconds. That shows you just how strong the drive from Andrew Walsh has been here this afternoon. Sean Becknell, meanwhile, we saw him just having problems earlier on. They seemed to manage to get the car to the finish despite what appeared to be some sort of a technical problem he was having earlier on the race when he was scrapping with that man, Martin Donnelly. But at Spa, it has been a tremendous race so far, weekend so far for these guys, because we've had a lot of incident in terms of overtaking, and lots of drivers really getting to grips with this circuit. They have had a tremendous race. Some of the local guys getting it stuck in and being very impressive. In fact, of the local guys, it was Christophe Lissandra in the 211 who was the quickest of those guys, bringing his car home in 6th position, and also winning his class for the invitation guys that are coming from overseas. At Spa, though, a tremendous spectacle from Andrew Walsh. I'm sure the spectators that are here for the various other forms of motorsport as well as Lotus will have been really intrigued to see these guys out there scrapping hard and providing a tremendous level of excitement and action for everybody here on this beautiful afternoon.
And in third place was Stuart Kirkbride. And in second place, Paul Quinn.
Embarrassing. It had an electrical fault with the fuel pump. No, I ran out of fuel.
Well, that's my best result ever, and it just goes to show what even a modest driver can achieve with a car that's properly set up. So I'm really pleased with that.
Was it an eventful race?
Definitely, yes. Lots going on, particularly at the start. Cars all over the place, and then in the early part of the race, I was fighting with a 211 and also one of the slick shod Exiges, and had a lot of fun trying to get past them. And later on, I caught up with Michael Edwards. Managed to get past him briefly, but I think at that point he decided that he needed to speed up a bit. He must have been sandbagging, and he pulled away from me and couldn't catch him.
And there was winner of Class C. How did you get on?
It was very good. The car's perfect. Pulled away a gap and then just made sure that we could finish the race. Everybody was really courteous. There's a few people out of position on the thing, so I got to see Sean again. I got to see a few of the Belgians. I think Van der Kooi, had a little spin, and he came back up, so he made sure I didn't go too slow, because we knew the 30 minutes would be really tight for fuel.
Yeah.
So I just had to behave myself. Luckily, I could only get on the grid because I'd forgotten my all the flameproof underwear. So Danny, one of the women on the grid, gave me hers. So she's not having them back.
Join us after the break for race 2.